on this. This is what we have. Let me open it with the painter so that you can see it clearly without any obstruction. There you go. And we can see there we have the locomotive engine really coming through the railway line. And we have Wanjiko there tied and with a hand or a pail in hand, reaching out for food, reaching out for unga probably. And it's all about SGR. And we've seen also the way it has been politicized by various stakeholders and also the politicians as well. But let's get through to our panelists as well to tell us much more about what they think, first of all, about the Ipsos Synovet and also the SGR, first of all. The security side of it, what does it portend when it comes to security, right? Have we taken cognizance of the fact that also it needs security? A lot of, we know the railway lines, first of all, they've been vandalized, and police in Mombasa have been also putting, the officers of the fire or the feet on fire to really work hard on this to make sure that it's not really vandalized. Allow me to introduce our panelists once more. If you're just joining us this morning, Professor Noah Midamba is Vice Chancellor of KCA University. Also, he is an expert on foreign policy and defense. Also, we have with us Dr. Apollos Machira. Apollos Machira is a criminologist from Egerton University. Also, we have Captain Collins Wanderi. Captain Collins Wanderi is an advocate of the High Court, and also he is a security analyst. Also, we have with us Captain Simiyu Werunga, who is the Director General of African Center for Security and Strategic Studies. And just walking in is also Dr. Mustafa Yusuf. Ali, if you may just walk in and take your seat this morning. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
And thank you for joining us as well. Right, let's just move on with the discussion. Looking at the SGR, of course, is a big plus for Kenya as a country. We've been eagerly awaiting for, of course, the locomotive and the engine to arrive, or we are still waiting for it to arrive in Nairobi. But let's flip it and look at the security side of it. Where do we begin when it comes to security? Maybe that the people who are concerned have not really drilled deeper and analyzed this. Captain Wanderi.
Yeah, Debarl, it's quite apparent that a project of this magnitude, perhaps the security aspect was not part of the initial planning, because it is very shocking to have a project of this nature, even before the launch, a state launch, which would include not just the contractors and the visitors from China, but as well as the entire top leadership of this country. Then you have breaches in terms of security. It simply shows that something was not right. And we need to learn from perhaps of other people who've done that. South Africa did start their high-speed train just before the World Cup. And people are very skeptical. And one of the things that people are skeptical about was safety, both along the tracks and in the locomotives. And again, we have also Ethiopia, which launched their train, and it cuts through the eastern part where there have been skirmishes involving even rebel groups. And one of the things that those countries did is to initially have a serious deployment in terms of what you'd call show of might, that you clearly demonstrate to whoever is intent on disrupting that line that there's presence of heavy security and the line is secure and nothing would be disrupted, because nothing can be distracting and dissuasive to passengers to use the new train if they sense that is going to be insecure. You wouldn't expect, even if there were vandals for scrap metal, that is not something really you would expect at that early stage. At that early stage, yeah, it is too early to even contemplate. And the other day, the Inspector General of Police rode on trial along the tracks. I think whoever accompanied him, especially if there were security analysts and people who observe in his office, then they would have noted areas where there is simply no habitation. And they are remote in the sense that there are no they are left off for a long time. And even if you drive along Mombasa Road, you have those stretches where basically you don't fight people and you don't fight nothing. It's very easy for anybody intent on doing something wrong to be there. And that is a place then you begin to establish presence in terms of policing. But that seems not to have been done. And it's too early to have this kind of thing. We shouldn't start this way.
We shouldn't start this way.
Yes.
And of course, we've seen previously, maybe last year also, Maasai, the Maasai community, some of them were really attacking the Chinese workers on the rails, especially in Maasai as well. Not in Maasai, but in Naivasha. Could you also tell us, what are we bound to see right now? Because we have also some places that are deemed to be, maybe they will not really have a good reception of the standard gauge railway and the locomotive today as it's passing through their lines as well, because of the issue of compensation. That has also been a very ticklish issue. Captain Werunga.
I think I want to look at the thing in two perspectives, political and security. One, I don't think the government sold this idea to majority of Kenyans that this is a national infrastructure project. I think it's been banded around wrongly that this is a Jubilee project. And our country being what we know, there are sections in this country that generally do not support the Jubilee manifesto. And therefore, if you don't sell these kind of things to make Kenyans understand that this is a national project that has serious ramifications for the growth and economic development of this country, then it has a serious impact on other Kenyans. And therefore, my take is the government has a responsibility to sell infrastructure development fractures, infrastructure development projects as national projects, as opposed to them being seen to be linked to one side of the political divide. That is one, and therefore, if we sell it as a national thing, then Kenyans should generally accept that this is a project that is for the good of this country. Number two, we've seen, and people on this table, all of us have traveled outside this country and used some of these trains, and you realize there are so many security infrastructure aspects on a train like this one. And therefore, even when they are doing their feasibility studies, the fellows who are doing those things should have noted that one of the things that needs to be done on a train like this is to have sensor locations on this train, where, for example, the Kenya pipeline, they have sensors where in places where they believe that if there's an intrusion, then the main office will be alerted and things should be done. Because one, if this train is going at the speed they're telling us 120 per hour, and you have something terrible happening, you can imagine what will be the consequences. And therefore, I blame from the word go, because like Captain Dere said, this train passes stretches of empty land in this country. And therefore, those empty spaces should have been taken care of, not because you fear the people who live along those lines, but it's just because it's a necessity for this kind of thing, one, to assure the passengers that it is a safe thing to use. Number two, to assure the people who are coming in this country and they want to use it, that we took interest of everything that is supposed to secure you when you travel from Mombasa to Nairobi or vice versa. And therefore, mine is, I think, to blame the fellows who did the feasibility studies. And I hope they're listening, because this is the same thing that needs to be done on LAPSSET. See, LAPSSET is going to traverse parts of this country that are fairly empty in terms of population disbursement. And therefore, it is not too late. They can still go back and try and see what they need to do. For me, for the Inspector General to come and say, these are economic saboteurs, you know, you can't keep on threatening Kenyans every now and then. There's a way we can deal with these things from a government perspective to ensure that we just do the right thing, and Kenyans will be made to understand that the law in this country takes its course.
Its course.
Yeah.
All right. Could we also, because what you say, it can be very, very dangerous when we have people who've looted and vandalized, you know, the trucks, and we have the train really going at 120 or whatever speed it will be going at. Have we also considered the security implication of this in terms of cost? Because we need now to also deploy policemen, maybe, also to put up maybe police posts as well along the trucks. right? Could we also hear just for Dr. Apollos Machira, please?
During the old days, when I was traveling from Nairobi to Nyahururu on the railway, every several kilometers, we used to find railway workers. And there used to be houses on the way. So that I would find them patrolling the area with a small, I don't know whether it's a trolley or something, that would move 2, 3, 4 kilometers to see whether it is okay. So I expect that this also ought to be patrolled all the way, so that whomever is trying to spoil the railway, it will be rectified immediately. And I think the noise we are making and we are seeing, and the political vandalism we are seeing with the railway, it will stop naturally. Because when the gauge railway starts coming, and people will see the use and the importance of it. Because right now we have some railway line moving from here to Nanyuki and to Nyahururu, and they are not used. And those guards are never vandalized by anybody. So if we can say that these guys are vandalizing for metal, I think that is not true. Someone wants to spoil the project for Uhuru for their own reasons. Really? Otherwise, I see something which is very short-lived.
Okay. This is taking a political angle this morning.
Very short-lived. Things will normalize themselves.
All right.
Because now some of the school children from all over Kenya are traveling with the president from Mombasa to this place. Mm-hmm. So I think they will take the message home that this is a good thing. So we shall get used to that, and we shall stop vandalizing, and especially when the politics are down.
All right. Professor Noah Midamba, you agree with what Dr. Apollos Machira is saying? Yeah? Do you hold with his view?
Apollo is my younger brother, you know, so I always agree. Now, let me, I have two reactions, Debarl. I was in the tent when President Kibaki opened the Thika Highway. Mm-hmm. And as he was talking, he stopped in the middle and said, people, you know, what's wrong with us? We're building this road, this highway, for the people of Kenya, for us to move goods and services. And as they were building, people were vandalizing. People were taking metals, sending to India, so those metal can be melted again and sent back to Kenya and sold. Now, so that is one reaction which I think Captain Wanderi and also Captain Werunga alluded to, which is this is a substantive progress for Kenya. Mm-hmm. This is Kibaki's Uhuru's achievement, because it was first launched by Kibaki, now completed by Uhuru. And it's a national good, okay? The issue, what we have not done, is to prepare the citizen, prepare Wanjiku, in terms of how do you benefit from this project. Right. And therefore, Wanjiku is sitting here and looking at the project as a Uhuru project, instead of looking at it as a Kenyan project. And we were vandalizing Thika Road. We needed to be warned that this railroad in the middle security issue is going to need security infrastructure. And this is an easier target that will bring a big news for the bad people. And we have not taken that. No, I don't agree that it's just economic sabotage. Mm-hmm. It's much more than that. And so security people need to understand what is involved in this kind of huge project and the infrastructure that is needed to protect it for the goodness of the country.
Okay. And of course, having these particular trucks, you know, running through bridges, and if we have one of the truck also just pilfered with, or maybe, as we said, vandalized, we can understand the ramifications that can really come out of that as well. So heightening the security, Dr. Mustafa, your input.
You know, Debarl, the best security is when you do not need one. And if we are going to if there are risks to such kind of national projects, important infrastructure to Kenya, then we may end up spending a lot of money running this kind of services, and the end result is that the Kenya Railways itself and the government may not be able to afford, given the amount of revenue that is going to bring in. And Kenyans need just to have good manners. Vandalizing the road system, like we've been seeing all around, pulling down traffic lights so that they can go and sell scrap metal, is really nasty. And, well, first of all, I'm not sure that, well, the only time that I've seen railway being vandalized in Kenya was when our brothers in Kibera uprooted a railway line, and thereby going into the Guinness Book of Record as the only group that uprooted a railway line with their bare hands, and that was politically motivated. Kenyans just need to style up. This service is for the benefit of all Kenyans. The only thing that the government needs to do is to build or strengthen or improve the stakeholdership of such kind of projects. Kenyans just need to see that these kind of projects are benefiting or are beneficial to the country. And Kenyans are going to respect that. There is no need to undermine or to try and prevent these kind of services from running.
All right, so looking at the editorial cartoon that we have this morning, of course, there is politics of it. We can look at it and the priority, because I know this was within the timelines also that we had of launching that particular standard gauge railway and the locomotive. But now see that particular train, all the engine really coming through the tracks, and we can see Wanjiko tied there on the tracks with a pail in hand. All is clear, so they say, but is it all clear as far as also food security is concerned? Well, I don't know what, I don't want to read, or maybe you have a different interpretation of this particular editorial cartoon, Captain Wanderi. The way you decipher it, you tell us.
Yes, you know the editorial cartoon has two interpretations. One, anybody who interprets this is self-recrimination. You are condemning yourself, that we are not worth this if we cannot do this. And they should not per se be addressed to, there is always a misnomer in this country of addressing everything as a government. Government is just but the custodian and the trustees of our nationhood at a particular point. And that's why there will be series of governments and changes. But is the problem only those in charge, or even us, all of us? It's actually all of us, because we've debated here the issue of food security. And the issue of food security, we tied it to levels of incompetence to people we have in certain public offices. We had all these early warning signs that this is going to happen. Now, there is something that was in the news yesterday, yes, which Kenyans ought even to, I don't know how many of them noticed, that South Africa has had the highest bump, or has a bumper harvest of maize, the highest in 40 years.
The highest in 40 years?
Yes, in 40 years, which followed a drought in 2015, which was very devastating to Southern African countries. And as a result, then what has happened? Any person who then follows the information on the Climate Prediction Center, as well as the Famine Early Warning Network system, that network, as well as what our own body publishes here, any person who then follows that would be able to understand that there has been a kind of a cyclical drought starting from Southern Africa and now in Eastern Africa. And this was known. And it is true, it's a fact that if you're not going to talk to people about development, grandiose projects, when they're hungry, that's a fact. You cannot even talk about security to such people. And in fact, that ought to have been our that ought to have been a very major concern. But at the same time, we also need to ask ourselves whether we have put in place the right people. Not just the people who are in government. There are also those who are supposed to audit them. We are going into elections. Who will the citizens vote for? They will vote for people who don't care, who are not even bothered about their welfare. And this is a starting point. That apart from, but at the same time, personally, I would hesitate to have put that cartoon if I was the cartoonist, because you're not just the Kenya. It is only Kenya. Now Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, South Africa, and Ethiopia, which have this kind of train that we have in Africa. So we ought to be celebrating our success. Yes, we have our failures. We are admitting.
Yes.
But we ought not to take it down. It is so bad to be negative. You know, we cannot live in pessimism. It's too much.
It's too much.
It's too much pessimism.
All right, if we may just have a broader view of the cartoon, please. We can see we have Wanjiku there. We have the train. And I think he did, by the logo there, we can see what is wafting from the train is, yeah, the plume of smoke there, but it is all debt. Yeah, Captain Werunga, I can see you laughing at that. Yeah, your input on this?
I think although I prefer concentrating on security issues, but I'll put something in this.
Yes.
One, you know, this train was planned many years ago. I think the president is just launching it after a long spell of time, and it is happening now when the country is hungry. Therefore, putting them together, to me, do not necessarily make sense, because while this thing was planned about 10 years ago and it's been on construction for this time, we are facing this issue of famine and is it hunger or anger, one of those, this time. And therefore, to put them together, Debarl, I think at this moment, to me, they don't correlate. But yes, when you're looking at it from a pessimist point of view, you realize that we are putting money in this, we are waffling data on top, and Wanjiku has no food. But the thing is this, while we know that a country can never develop without serious infrastructure development, probably the coincidence that we are having this problem in this country and yet we are launching the train, yes, to me might not make a lot of sense in the context that it doesn't necessarily mean that our priorities are wrong. It's just that the country is going through this period at the time when the train construction is ending. That is one. Number two, I want to disagree with my colleague Wanderi. South Africa went through serious drought, but we never had them go through what we are going through. What does that mean? They planned. They planned. They knew the things were going to happen. They knew some of the things were beyond their projections, and therefore they planned themselves to make sure that even if we are going to go through this, we are prepared to ensure that we don't go through what Kenya is going through. And therefore, I come back to what he said. There are people in this country given jobs. There are people in this country who are supposed to project. There are people in this country who have strategic thinking and planning for this country who never do their work. Because you'll agree with me that this country has a circular, is it circular or whatever? It goes round, eh?
The circulars, yes.
Cyclic, vicious.
Oh, okay, I get it.
So that this year we have drought, next year we have famine, next year we have drought, and you cannot be talking about the same things for the last 10 years. Surely, Debarl, this country must plan, and it can only plan if the government decides this is what we want to do, these are the people we are putting in place, and these are the people who are supposed. I mean, I'm no keeper for the president of this country or the government, but I know there are civil servants in this country employed to do the job that the president and his team wants to be done in this country. So while we are blaming the leadership, the political leadership of this country, I still agree with Wanderi that the people given jobs must be held to account. And we cannot, as a country, be going around the same circle through and through.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Dr. Apollos Machira.
Now, are you telling us that we are not going to have a vision 2030? Because every time we try to do something, someone is taking us back. Now, what is the problem with this?
But have we been told also on the progress of Vision 2030?
Vision 2030 is one of these.
We really,
now, where is my camera? the problem
you have
is this.
camera
when
9
I'm
is
in Costa Rica, I'm usually told this is your camera.
Okay.
With the bus program, no camera.
Because I have so many cameras, you know. We have 10 cameras in studio. Yeah. All right, you have camera 9 now.
What is the problem? You know, we have standard gauge. You know, who is this person complaining and why? I see politics. I see politics. We shall never. When we were doing the Thika superhighway, people are complaining that there are no roads in Samburu. There are no roads in Turkana. Now look at the beauty of Thika highway. So let us have this thing, let people complain, because 2030, we must reach that vision.
All right. Okay, maybe amongst us also we should cast that particular question about Vision 2030, because when we compare and we see how also the MDGs, the Millennium Development Goals, were meted out, and now which has now morphed into SDG, Sustainable Development Goals, we saw they had timelines. And they'll tell us, after every 5 years, this has been the development. We've never heard from the Vision 2030 Secretariat coming after 5 years to tell us, so far, this has been the achievement. Are we waiting for Vision 20 or the year 2030 so that we can see all this development? How do we check off the list? We know this has been achieved within a given 5 years. Then after 15 years, so far, this is what has been achieved, and we failed to achieve on certain component, but this is what we are doing to achieve it. Have you ever had that? Let's hear from Dr. Apollos. Have you got an end report about the Vision 2030 within 5 years?
Vision 2030, I see the tarmac road reaching Rudwa.
No. My question is, I'm really pressing for specifics. I'm asking you, have you ever heard from the Vision 2030 Secretariat what they've achieved within even 10 years? Since it was launched?
They are the same people Captain Simiyu is complaining about. They are there, they are quiet, they are, you know, so they are not there. Let's assume. Do
you even know who is the Director General of Vision 2030 yourself?
There used to be someone.
There used to be someone. You see,
whether you're still there.
This really goes to tell you that, yes, even the public do not really know what they normally do, right? We need to get off a briefing at least after every 5 good years. This is how we've achieved. I don't know what will be your input, Professor Noah Midamba.
Debarl, you are asking the right question. We have a nation. We have a nation to build. We have plan to achieve. We have report to give to Wanjiko. And that is not happening consistently. And so there is a disconnect. And because there is a disconnect, there will be rumors. And there will be people who sitting like Wanjiko and say, what's my benefit? I need Unga. I don't need railroad. Somebody need to explain the connection between the first railroad and how Wanjiko is going to get Unga faster, wherever they're imported from Mombasa to Nairobi to wherever.
Yes.
Somebody need to explain the cost of the infrastructure development. Citizen, this is how much it's going to cost you. We know we have about 4 trillion debt, you know, and continue to pile.
Yes.
But we need to then get out of there. I mean, citizen by citizen, county by county. This is what is happening. This is what we have achieved. And here are other plans which we need to talk. We cannot sit here as fairly educated people and wonder who's driving Vision 20. Mm-hmm. Okay? And you cannot say this is Uhuru project. Uhuru is responsible for carrying out a targeted national project. Mm-hmm. When he delivered it, he delivered on behalf of the people of Kenya. Mm-hmm. And so there is need to be, someone need to explain that connection. Mm-hmm. And if that doesn't happen, there is disconnect, and we are where we are right now.
Right. Let us hear from Dr. Mustafa.
Debarl, there is a huge information gap from those who are supposed to be providing that particular information for the rest of the Kenyans. When President Uhuru appointed or selected Kenyans to lead certain ministries, certain departments, of course, he expects that they are also going to be informing Kenyans. There are quite a number of those who are selected because of, not because of merit, but because of tribal affiliation. And that's where tribal entrepreneuring comes in. And that's what has failed this country. Some of those people report to work in the morning, hang their coats at the back of their chairs or coat hanger, and then go and do their own things. And knowing full well that they are not going to be held to account because they come from certain tribes. And this is the problem of this country. And if then the president is going to crack the whip, a whole tribe is going to cry, oh, my tribe is being, my community is being crucified. That cartoon there, I mean, those are two different departments. That's the Ministry of Agriculture, Planning, and Transport. If the folks in the Ministry of Agriculture, walikula unga na mafuta yote, they should be held to account. The Ministry of Transport and Communication, or Transport Infrastructure, is moving forward. And therefore, the fact that Kenya is hungry at this time, there must be people that must be held to account for not planning properly. Some sectors are moving on, some sectors are lagging behind. Monies that were meant for irrigation, Galana, quite a bit of that was stolen. I think the Israelis came here and they even raised their hands and said, you know, you Kenyans, President was in Israel and said that, castigated Kenyans, stealing and then going around making noise or blaming the other people. And therefore, this whole issue of Chapter 6 of the Kenya Constitution must kick in, especially during this elections time. The country has done fairly well in many respects. It's moved to become a middle income country, and that needs to be appreciated. And there is no country in the world that is going to move out of poverty into the middle income band without this kind of projects. China in itself lifted 900 million Chinese from absolute poverty to a situation where they were okay because of this kind of projects. And we definitely need more of this kind of projects. The challenge here is one, that if we are not strategic about this kind of projects, then we might end up being in deeper trouble. I don't suppose that is going to be the case if the president and those who are managing this country are going to be much more strategic and get proper people, workers who are going to manage and supervise this kind of projects.
We continue with the conversation on the standard gauge railway. Before we took a short break, we are trying to drill deeper and looking at the economics of it as well, where I know Dr. Apollos Machira is totally denying or saying, no, we shouldn't go there. This is not an economic forum. This is a security forum as well. But what will they be carrying with the standard gauge railway? Just briefly, a cursory look at that, Captain Wanderi.
I think the standard gauge railway, if you look at it, has two components. It has the cargo freight and as well as the passenger freight. And one of the things that East Africa has suffered and has been the movement of goods from the coastal ports to the hinterland. And yes, I agree with you. We cannot be discussing the railway line without discussing its security implications.
Yes.
For one, we expect that much of the goods that have been moving around the central corridor, that is between Mombasa all the way to Malaba or Busia then to Kigali, will then, a very big chunk of that cargo will then move to the railway.
Yes.
And that will ease the problem on our roads, especially along Mombasa Road. Internationally, Mombasa Road, that is between Mlolongo all the way to Mombasa, as well as the Nakuru Highway. In fact, the Nakuru Highway is among the 20 highways of death in the world. It is actually classified as one of the 20 highways of death in the entire world, globally. Yes. And one of the reasons we have is because of the major truckers moving heavy cargo from bulk cargo from Mombasa to the hinterland into Uganda. So we expect a bit of that change. But on the other hand, we also expect faster movement of people, so that if the railway is secure, then we are going to reduce the number of deaths along the roads. But let's talk about the security aspect of it. You cannot, if you want to invest in good things in your house, what is the first thing that you do? You make sure that your house is secure. You have very good barriers. You have a good wall. You have good grills and good doors for physical barriers. Now, this railway, or especially the cargo transport, is expected to move the cargo faster between Mombasa as a port all the way to Kisumu and eventually through the corridor into Uganda. Yes. Faster movement of goods has its own implications. Then it therefore means that even criminal elements who want to move things will move them faster. That is a point we need to know. Mm-hmm. That whereas Kenya has been accused as having non-tariff barriers along the corridors, the two corridors in East Africa, because of the number of roadblocks between Mombasa and Malaba. That is a fact, and that is why I think the security aspect comes in. So what are those roadblocks meant to do? Those roadblocks are supposed to ensure that we do not have cargo either getting lost. We have got between Lemuru and Naivasha. Yes. We know a lot of cargo does get lost. Mm-hmm. So are we also assuring our neighbors in Rwanda, in Uganda, in South Sudan, that when we have their cargo moving along the railway track, that it is secure? That is very important. Secondly, we now have to enhance our security at the harbor, at the port. Yes. Because we're going to have very big liners in terms of ships loading, and because we can then move cargo quickly, it will improve our transportation, but it also has security implications. Mm-hmm. In that the more you want this cargo to move faster, then it means that you must deploy differently. You're not going to deploy the normal policeman walking around with a gun. You must deploy, as my colleague and my friend Captain Werunga said, you must have sensors, you must use technology so that you ensure that you electronically track the movement of goods and as well as people from Mombasa all the way to Malamba safely. Mm-hmm. Without that, then this project, in terms of the implications, perception is everything. If there is a perception that it is not secure, it will be a failure. Mm-hmm.
Right. So the security of the ports as well, because we know also the government had put, I think, 40% quota as what they say was the security of imports for SGR.
I think one, about what is this railway going to transport. We must understand that China is a growing economy. And one, we must have and understand that China has interest in this kind of infrastructure. Why they are doing this for Kenya, we also know they are doing it for themselves. China wants to get raw material from all over the world, and therefore, in terms of access and the speed in which they get their raw materials, they must be part and parcel and partners of any infrastructure growth, especially in Africa. So we are looking at this railway, and the intention, which was very clear initially, was to ensure that this railway gets up to Rwanda so that they can get things from DRC, they can get things from Copper, from Zambia. And therefore, as much as it is our project, we also know there are international interests in what is going on. And that's why you realize China is funding SGR in Kenya. China and Japan are funding port upgrades in Kenya. They're doing the same in Dar es Salaam. They're doing the same in Djibouti. And the intention is, while we say it is these are our projects, we also know that we have international interest in what is going on. And therefore, I can assure you that this railway will get to the border. Mm-hmm. Whichever way you look at it, yes, this railway will get to Malaba, so that Uganda has its own portion to bring it to Malaba, and the same to Rwanda. So whatever the politics that are in this, we must understand that we are looking at this as an international project, although funded and given money by Chinese. Yes. We are just pawns in this game, although we benefit as a country, but we end up paying. So this is one thing we need to understand. So as much as we know it's coming up to Nairobi, and some politics played in between Uganda, Tanzania, and Rwanda, at the end of the day, Debarl, this railway will get where it's supposed to go. Because people must use this railway to get their goods either inside Africa or outside Africa. So to me, that's how we need to understand it. Now, on the security aspect, I think Captain Wanderi has belabored on that one. I think it's just important that now we've seen a small scare on this first part of the railway, and I hope that the planners now, including the Chinese, who did the feasibility, who are building it, who are going to manage it for the next 10 years, must understand the context in which our security situation evolves.
Right.
And therefore, whatever they're going to be doing from now, they must have that as a serious aspect of their planning.
Thank you. I think we need to bring it to a close. But of course, the looming question will remain, as much as you say it will reach Malaba, but will we still have a low cargo volume? Because a lot is really pegged on the cargo as well, how we can actually repay this particular loan. Also, that will be derived from the cargo that we have. Now, if we're having a low cargo volume, then what does it portend on us really repaying this particular loan? Because this is really pegged on us. So are we really saddled with this particular sheer responsibility, right, that also will be passed to our children as well to repay this particular loan, right?